Hello, my name is Vincent Creel, Public Affairs Manager for the City of Biloxi, and this is today's report. This is being recorded on Monday, November 16th at 2 p.m. The big questions today: when are they going to pick up my storm debris, and when are they going to fix these traffic signals? Those are two of the main Zeta recovery topics. We'll cover them today. We'll also have the latest on COVID-19 and a look back at the Biloxi of old. But let's say this right up front, for those who have asked from afar. Biloxi is indeed open for business, in a pandemic for sure, but open with the proper safety mandates in place. And now, storm debris. On Sunday, Biloxi's debris crews had their largest haul yet. 9,400 cubic yards of debris were picked up from neighborhoods on Sunday. And Sunday, by the way, was the 11th straight day of debris hauling in Biloxi. Crews have now picked up more than 64,000 cubic yards of debris. They are just about a third of the way to the estimated 200,000 cubic yards of debris left in Zeta's wake. And yes, 200,000 cubic yards of debris is enough to fill the Coast Coliseum twice. Debris haulers, and there were 22 of them working Sunday, are working their first pass around the entire city. The areas south of I-10 have been the focus of the contractor. That's primarily because they have a temporary West Biloxi staging site to help reduce the debris and make the trips shorter. At the outset, the city planned to have debris trucks work in each of the 7 city wards. However, with the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality approving the West Biloxi site, the crews shifted gears to be more effective and maximize the debris removal. You can see from this map the field of green is in West Biloxi, but you can also see debris trucks are actually in all 7 wards of the city. The contractor's working to get a second staging site in Wool Market to help improve the efficiency of debris pickup north of the bay. You'll then see that field of green move to north of the bay as well. And what about those plastic bags? The city's debris contractor wasn't picking up plastic bags initially. The city has asked the contractor to please start picking up the bag debris along with the other debris that is at the curbside. They've agreed to start picking up the plastic bags of debris, but please be patient. The entire process, please remember, is expected to take 60 to 90 days. The first pass is expected to be completed in mid-December. In fact, the first pass on the peninsula is almost finished. We should also note that the work is being done to FEMA specifications and guidelines to ensure reimbursement to the city. Right now, for the first 11 days, the tab is just under $1 million. In the post-storm world, FEMA usually reimburses the city for 75% of the cost. MEMA, or the state, pay 12.5%, and the city pays the remaining 12.5%. That's the reason for the push to get rid of the debris. The city's responsible for 12.5 cents on the dollar right now. That will not last forever. So Mayor Gillich and members of the City Council again ask you, make sure to get your storm debris to the curb. Let's pause now for a COVID-19 update.
Today, the Mississippi State Department of Health reports that 589 new cases of the coronavirus have been identified statewide. Since Friday, 2,928 cases have been reported, bringing the statewide total number of coronavirus cases to 134,898. Today, the department also reports a total of 3,545 deaths have resulted from the coronavirus statewide. This chart shows the total number of positive tests statewide since the crisis began. This chart shows the 14-day track on cases statewide. In Harrison County today, the department reports 21 new cases of the coronavirus in the last 24 hours. Since Friday, 122 new cases have been reported. This brings the county total to 6,453. As for the deaths in Harrison County, 101 cases have been reported. Here's the 14-day chart for Harrison County, which shows the daily average of cases. As you can see, cases still continue to rise. According to the Mississippi Department of Health, hospitalizations for COVID-19 statewide are on track towards the crisis level. As of Sunday, only 17 of the more than 4 dozen ICU beds in coast hospitals that treat coronavirus patients were available. Please take the threat seriously. Make the wearing of a face covering, social distancing, and washing your hands often a healthy habit. Do your part to help stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Traffic signals. Biloxi and Gulfport Traffic Division workers worked together on Friday to get the signals up and running at the DeBees Road and Pass Road intersection. Today, the city's contractors are working to get signals at Beauvoir and Pass restored. Biloxi has 64 signalized intersections, and right now we're aware of 5 besides Beauvoir and Pass that are not working. 2 of the destroyed signals are on Eisenhower, and 2 of the destroyed signals are on Howard. Please be careful at those intersections. Please be careful at all intersections. Those intersections with broken signals should be treated as 4-way stops. Finally, the 50 working shrimp boats that had been unable to return to the Biloxi Commercial Harbor because of damage are now back home. While they're all back, they may not necessarily be in the same slips. Again, that's because of damage to the harbor and the piers. But the fleet is back. And with the shrimp fleet back, you can expect to see dockside sales to resume. We leave you today with a look back at Biloxi through the decades. It's the story of how we evolved into the city that we are today. We'll see you again on Friday. Thank you.
In 1810, Biloxi's population was counted at just 420. A year later, after a century of French, British, and Spanish rule, Mississippi became the 20th state in the Union, and Biloxi began to grow. As Biloxi became a popular summer resort, the Mississippi Gulf Coast became known as the American Riviera. By mid-century, Biloxi had become the most important of the Gulf Coast's resort towns. Then, in 1861, Mississippi seceded from the United States. The Civil War had begun. After the war, recovery along the Gulf Coast was slow, but picked up momentum with the arrival of the railroad in the 1870s. Tourists began to return, and distant markets were opened up for a burgeoning new industry, seafood. By 1904, Biloxi was known as the seafood capital of the world. With the demand for labor high, Polish, Acadian French, and Slavic workers came to work in Biloxi's seafood industry. As the seafood and timber industries boomed, this rich mix of cultures was joined by Greeks, Irish, Italians, African Americans, and after the late 1970s, Vietnamese. A wide variety of traditions were born of this diversity. Through the decades, many cultural organizations have regularly held celebrations with contests, food, music, and dance. Mardi Gras, the oldest and most popular celebration, began in 1891. It was held sporadically until 1908, when it became an annual event, with the crowning of the first king, d'Iberville, and Queen Ixalib, Biloxi spelled backwards.
I've known Mardi Gras all my life, and we were always getting prepared. And then on Tuesday morning is when all the excitement and fun began. My daddy would get up at the crack of dawn, we'd load his car, and then he would go out to the boat for King d'Iberville Landing. And then, of course, my mother and my sister and I, we were in charge of the maids and the queen.
For many years, the Biloxi Fireman's Parade, now known as the Biloxi Firefighters' Day Parade, was Biloxi's second most popular event. In 1888, with Biloxi's seafood industry thriving, the first schooner races were held. The races, a weekly event, gained national attention and were held until 1933. Overflow crowds cheered from the Biloxi Yacht Club as the White-Winged Queens vied for the winning prize, a keg of beer. From 1922 to 1934, the Biloxi Elks Club sponsored a 4th of July celebration that featured bathing beauty contests and sailing races. Sailing regattas were held throughout the summer, some lasting for several days. As in antebellum days, hotels offered boat excursions up the rivers and to the islands, aboard boats like the Pan American Clipper, and later the catboat Gigi, designed and built by Henry Fountain of Biloxi. In the 1950s, Biloxi eccentric John R. Guillot, known as the Hermit of Deer Island, would row out to meet the excursion boat Sailfish, where he would serenade the tourists on board. Since 1929, the annual blessing of the fleet has been held at the beginning of the shrimping season. As the decorated boats pass in parade, the Catholic priest blesses each one and prays for the safety of the fishermen and for a good catch. And since 1948, the annual deep-sea fishing rodeo has attracted anglers from all over the coast to compete for cash prizes. During the early 20th century, Biloxi continued to grow. Electricity, a street railway system, and telephone service were added. A paved highway was built along the beach, and in 1928, a new seawall was dedicated. More hotels were constructed as tourism increased. After World War II, Biloxi once again became a popular vacation destination. Keesler Army Airfield had survived demobilization to become Keesler Air Force Base, and as other bases closed, Keesler's population grew. Engineers transformed Highway 90 into a 4-lane highway, and at the same time, sand was pumped from the Sound to form a 300-foot sloping beach as a buffer to the seawall. The white sand beach quickly became a tourist attraction for those coming in droves on the new superhighway. New motels, restaurants, and nightclubs sprang up along the beachfront.
My most vivid memory of coming down that beach highway was on a Saturday night, and it was sheer lights. It was the Broadway of Mississippi. There were so many places. Music abounded here on the coast.
Two well-known spots were Gus Stevens' Seafood Restaurant and Lounge and the Cabana Beach Motel's Fiesta Lounge. Stevens booked big-name entertainers, and some entertainers who were relatively unknown at the time.
The first star that I really remember was Dave Gardner. He was sort of the Southern Lenny Bruce. He, in his heyday, would draw more people into the nightclub than any other performer. There was standing room only when Dave performed. There were others like Mamie Van Doren and Jerry Van Dyke and Jane Mansfield, of course, and then Gene Warren, the Four Mints. So there are a lot of people that actually started on the coast here. There are many singing groups that began with Dad. Tex Ritter sang at Dad's restaurant, Mickey Gilley, Elvis Presley. Actually, Dad met him and told him he would never make it in the business.
Size Place, an inland nightclub popular with the locals, brought in Hank Williams Sr., the just-beginning Elvis Presley, and Jerry Lee Lewis, who, in keeping with his onstage style, practically tore up the piano. During this time, Jimmy Love Jr. began marketing his White House and Buena Vista hotels as potential convention centers. Others followed his lead, and Biloxi became a convention destination as well as a mecca for tourists. Then, in 1969, Hurricane Camille wrought destruction on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. In the wake of the storm, the people picked themselves up and began to rebuild. Biloxi's economy recovered slowly until 1992, when the state of Mississippi legalized dockside gaming, igniting the biggest economic boom in Biloxi's history. Then, in August 2005, Hurricane Katrina brought all of that to a standstill. Katrina hit the Mississippi Gulf Coast with high winds, heavy rains, and a 26.5-foot storm surge, causing massive damage to the area and killing 53 people. 5,000 businesses and homes in Biloxi were destroyed. As they had throughout history, the people of Biloxi would gather the strength to rebuild. The Beau Rivage reopened just 1 year to the day after Katrina. Today, Biloxi is once again a major vacation destination, offering a wealth of outdoor activities, outstanding seafood, and casino gambling.
Welcome to Biloxi.